Yes, that feels good, and you sound good. Well, here we are, right in the middle of February, right still in the beginning of this season of peace and nonviolence that we've stepped into with this practice of our no complaint bracelets, and in this message today that I've been guided to lead us on. We're going to be looking at fasting. Now, we know that Jesus went on a 40-day fast. We know that Moses went on a 40-day fast. We know that fasting is something we don't talk about much. And check in. If I just saying the word fasting, are you ready to run for the door? I invite you. Nothing's going to be thrust upon you. Let's look at fasting in the footsteps of the masters. I begin by Jesus. Now, this is a moment in Jesus' ministry. This is Mark 9:29, where there was a boy who was blind and deaf, and everyone was trying to do something for him. Let's heal him. And Jesus came in and healed the boy. And the disciples were like, "Master, how did you do that? Wow!" And this is what he said. So he said to them, "This kind can come out by nothing but prayer and fasting." That's a pretty powerful teaching from Master Jesus, who we see as our master teacher, our way shower. So he's saying, this is what can happen if we pray and fast. Now, we know about prayer. Unity's all about prayer. We've got prayer down. We do prayer, and we know prayer works. But we don't talk about fasting very much. I wonder why that is. So let's turn to Buddhism. This is one of the finest teachers of the past century, Venerable K. Sri Dhammamananda Mahathira. I think I did that. In Buddhism, fasting is an initial stage of self-discipline to acquire self-control. These are not religious fads, but practices based on moral, psychological insight. So in a nutshell, this brings us to our truth. This allows us to examine what's going on. And when we take a moment and look at what's going on, are we going to approach it with acceptance, with surrender, with peace, with love? Or are we going to change risks and whine about it, complain about it, criticize it, judge it, cast it as the ultimate evil? Be patient. This is Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita, so this is in the Hindu tradition, chapter 2, verse 59. Fasting cleanses the soul, raises the mind, subjects one's flesh to the spirit, renders the heart contrite and humble, quenches the fires of lust, and kindles the true light of chastity. Enter again into yourself. I think Krishna's a little bit of evangelistic here. I mean, it's all inclusive. It's the mind, it's the soul, it's our body. But it's calling us to ourself. Now, if it truly is a tool, a practice for us to come home to self, then we might see that Master Teacher, when he took 40 days in fasting, he made a determined choice to enter into awareness. Now that's not just me, myself, and I. That's becoming awareness of our oneness with all that is, with our divine consciousness, which is what this community has come together to do. We've come together to spiritually awaken together. And the way we do that is individually. I can't wake you up. I can wake myself up. And maybe by being awake, you'll come and join me. It's a little hard to have a conversation if we're both asleep. I've had lots of them. We turn to Muhammad. This is from the Quran, chapter 2, verse 183. A genuine fast cleanses the body, mind, and soul. It crucifies the flesh and to that extent sets the soul free. Now we know what it's like. This very process of the no complaint bracelet has brought me to my knees several times, awakening to what words do I put out in the world? What's the intention behind the words? Sometimes the words are neutral, but the intention, oh boy, it's loaded. When we fast, it's an opportunity for us to cleanse our body, mind, and soul. And when we create space, what are we going to fill it with? I invite you to fill it with God. That's setting our soul free. Because when we're free, we're present right now to all that is. And if we're present with all that is, then we're one with the God of our understanding. That divine essence. Paramahansa Yogananda said, read a little, meditate more, and think about God all the time. I turn to Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, and this master says, in abstinence from worldly things, the mind must be filled with thoughts of God. Else there's no spiritual value in fasting. If we just fast, create a little space, and just fill it with something else, a new trinket, a new opinion, a new bling, new skis, snow skis, which is really practical here. Whenever we abstain from anything, we create space to open ourselves to thinking about God more. And there's no greater thing we can do in this life, in our spiritual journey, than awaken to God. And then it's worthy of contemplating the maybe possibility, of fasting. May Rowan, who is head of Silent Unity for years, says fasting does not always refer to abstinence from food, but to abstinence from material gratification of any kind that might hinder spiritual unfoldment. This is great wisdom. There's nothing wrong with material gratification. But material gratification will never awaken us to our spiritual truth. Because this stuff is built in time and ends in time. How often have we worked to get the thing, and then once we have it, it kind of fades away in its importance. It's certainly not, you've already got it, so it's no longer a quest to get it. And how then we'll focus on something else that attracts us. when we occupy our waking moments in grasping for material stuff, we're not spending time grasping God, allowing ourselves to be more peaceful and realize we really have enough. Now, that doesn't mean that when you run out of cat food, you don't go out and buy cat food. It doesn't mean that if your car doesn't work anymore and you need to drive to work, that you don't get another car, unless we manifest an incredible bus system right here in New Braunfels. It's possible. Fasting doesn't always mean abstinence from food. The benefits of fasting are these. It teaches something about ourselves. Whenever we can take a moment where we can understand more what's true for us, it's good. When we can open ourselves to what do we know is true? What do we believe? Because one thing that has been taught over and over in unity is that each of us is a true student and must come to our own understanding. But fasting gives us an opportunity to learn more about ourselves. It also teaches something about God. If we create space and we invite God in a little more, it might be a good time to amplify or expand your prayer and meditation practice. Maybe you'll realize that God really is present always. Loves us just the way that we are. We don't have to change anything. That's a wonderful truth. And it helps us to lead a balanced life. When we're off balance, that's when we can injure ourselves. When we're off balance, that's when we experience pain. That's when we're experiencing those heightened emotions like anger and fear and shame and guilt. When we're balanced, we're ready to accept whatever comes. When we're balanced, there's the possibility that someone can be standing before you in anger, just yelling at you, and you can be at peace. Seeing the radiant life of God in that person and just be awestruck at how they can vibrate the air. It's a different way of doing it. And possible if we're balanced. Otherwise, we're just blown away. We're seeking balance. We're seeking an equilibrium where we can see all things equal. When in God, everything is in balance. How else will the universe work if we're not in sync and in balance? There are many ways to fast. For one, the complaining, criticizing, judgment practice with this bracelet is a form of fasting. It's fasting from saying those things that used to be just very easy to just say. In Charles Fillmore's book, Keep a True Lent, he suggests negative thinking. 60,000 thoughts a day, and none of them negative. That's powerful. What if you went a day without using your cell phone at all? Now you can breathe. What if you went without television for a period of time? What if you stopped clicking on Facebook for a period of time? Now, if you never go to Facebook, this is not a fast. I would bet that if God had a Facebook page, we'd all check and say, okay, God, what now? The prophet Daniel in the Bible, this is Daniel chapter 10, verse 1 through 4. He had the opportunity to go in and feast with the kings. And he said, no, I must take. At that time, I, Daniel, mourned for 3 weeks. I ate no choice food, no meat, wine touched my lips, and I used no lotions at all until the 3 weeks were over. So in the Bible, there's this Daniel fast. And there are many religious and spiritual traditions that do the Daniel fast. I'm telling you that I'm going to do the Daniel fast during this Lenten season. It will start with Wednesday, February 26th. Yes, that's a week and a half from now. And ends Easter Day, April 12th. Now, if you choose to join me in the Daniel fast, please, if you have any medical issues, to consult your doctor first. Because it might be a change in your diet. If you're already a vegan, it's not going to be that big of a change. The Daniel fast is this. 1, no alcohol, no caffeine. You can eat all fruits and vegetables, all whole grains, all nuts and seeds, all legumes and beans, herbs and spices, and you can only drink water. Water that has lemon or lime or herb tea. Now, breathe. I know people who, I've done this Daniel fast before, and I know people who do the Daniel fast and drink coffee as well, because they just couldn't give that up. You get to do it the way you want to. It's in your bulletin. There's some questions in there to help guide you in the process. This is just an option. I'm doing this, and you're invited to join me. So, I do invite you to look at this Lenten season as an opportunity to go into fast. Set an intention. Commit to the type of fast you want to do. Television, cell phone, the Daniel fast, or any other fast. No sugar. Deepen your spiritual practice. This is the whole point, to open ourselves to God, to be aware of God. We might even take more time, excuse me, for praying for others, for inviting their goodness into our life. I'm going to actually double my meditation practice. Listen and care for your body. Listen to your own body and what it needs. It might be a nap. It might be a juicy steak. It might, whatever it is, listen and care for your body, number 1. And then, fasting is a time of insight and clarity. Journal your thoughts, because we don't give ourselves opportunity to come to a place where we're aware, we're listening, and we're opening. So journal your thoughts down. Let it be your guide. It starts in a week and a half, and you can do this any way as you want. But I do invite you to choose something to fast and come home to the truth and set your soul free. So let's take this moment now as we go into meditation. Gently and peacefully, allowing the unity singers to guide us in song. Right now, we have this opportunity to let go and come home to being. Peace, be still. We simply set down everything before this moment. We set down anything that will be the rest of this day. And we peacefully allow ourselves to be here now. Turning within our center, we simply allow, opening ourselves to our divine nature, infinite wisdom, to peace. And so let's take this time now in the silence where we turn within and allow whatever is to be, as we now enter into this time in the silence. We are grateful for receiving this peace, knowing that we can return to this center and experience and commune with God in the simplest of ways, just being here. Let's bring with us whatever we've received in this time as we bring our awareness back into the room. You might wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, roll your head, roll your shoulders, and when you're ready, open your eyes. And then we'll say together the affirmation that goes with today's talk. Together, I am free from anything that separates me from my awareness of God. And so it is, and so we let it be. What a blessing that is. And here is this opportunity to recite together this translation of the Lord's Prayer direct from Aramaic to English. Father, Mother, birther and breath of all, create a space inside us and fill it with your presence. Let oneness now prevail. Your one desire flows through ours as energy fills all forms. Give us this day our physical and spiritual nourishment. Untangle the knots of error that bind us as we release others. Don't let appearances make us forgetful of the source, but free us to act appropriately. For age to age, from you comes the glorious harmony of life. May these words be fertile ground from which our future grows. Amen.
Step out on the water, release your faith. Every step is stronger. Step out on the water.